We're thankful for that.
Kellyanne Conway today
I
here.
think we all are.
Okay.
We're part of it though.
Kellyanne Conway, I want to ask the Kellyanne Conway a different question, a different way though, because she was here on the North Lawn and she said that she warned Alabama voters not to support Doug Jones, not to be fooled by Doug Jones. So is that the position of this White House, that voters are better off voting for someone accused of assaulting teenage girls than a Democrat?
Look, as I've answered, I think even for the third or fourth time just today, as well as 10 or 15 times on both Thursday and Friday of last week, the position of the White House hasn't changed. We feel like the people of Alabama should make the determination on who their next senator should be.
She made a clear
Jim.
suggestion over who they should vote for.
And I'm giving you the answer of the position of the White House. Jim.
Sarah, well, first of all, I'm grateful for my daughter and my family, and the fact that I went to the Ohio State University as opposed to Michigan.
We'll let that slide.
But my question is, does the president really regret intervening in the case of the UCLA basketball players? And what message does that send to other U.S. citizens who may be held captive by a foreign government?
Look, the president was certainly very glad and thankful to see the release of the 3 UCLA athletes by the Chinese government. And frankly, it's really fortunate that the president has built a strong enough relationship with President Xi of China that he was able to help secure the release of the American citizens. Whenever the president is able to use his office and those relationships to help American citizens held overseas, he's certainly going to do that. And again, certainly the president was happy to intervene. And I think he's made that clear by taking that action upon himself to do that without being asked, and certainly something that he's done several times in these brief, short 10 months that he's been in office, where he's secured the release of several American citizens and brought them home. Steve?
Yeah, Sarah, I'm thankful for surviving our 12 days in Asia in one piece. Happy to be back here. The president has not made a weekly radio broadcast for more than a month now. Have they been scrapped by this administration, and if so, why?
No, we're always looking for different ways. We received quite a few comments and a lot of feedback that the weekly address wasn't being used to its full potential. So we're looking at different ways that we can revamp that and make it where it's more beneficial and actually gets more information out. And we'll keep you guys posted as those details happen. I know there certainly will be a Thanksgiving message. I'm not sure on the specifics in the date, but I'd be happy to follow up with you on that front. Jenna?
Sarah, I have a really quick Roy Moore question, and then I want to ask you about welfare reform. Has the president talked to Roy Moore since November 9th, which is the day that these accusations first came out?
Not that I'm aware of. I'm not aware of any conversations.
Yeah, and then today the president said that welfare reform is desperately needed. It needs to be reformed. What exactly is he talking about? Is he talking about food stamps? Is he talking about Medicaid? What is he talking about in that comment?
I think there's no secret. The president has spoke about this during the campaign and something that he's mentioned briefly since taking office. And when we have specifics on what that will look like, we'll certainly announce them and roll them out. I don't anticipate that happening over the next couple of weeks. We're very focused on tax reform and making sure we get that done by the end of the year. But this is something that the president has a great deal of interest in, and I think you can count on probably the first part of next year seeing more specifics and details come out on that. Zeke.
Thanks, Sarah, for the question. You mentioned on Friday the president released an expanded list of potential selectees for the Supreme Court should a vacancy open up. Number one, if you
Zeke, you did break the rule of not offering anything to thank
thankful for. Could you explain to me a little bit why the president felt it was necessary to add to the list that he put out during the campaign? And then also, if you address concerns about the diversity of some of the president's judicial picks, not the Supreme Court, but more broadly across the federal judiciary, and talk about how the White House sort of values or doesn't value diversity among the federal judiciary when it comes to selecting potential nominees.
Certainly value diversity, not just in the judiciary, but across the administration and always look for more ways to grow that, improve that. But in terms of the release on Friday, the president hadn't added any new names in nearly a year and felt like it was a good time to do that. There's nothing more to read into it other than expanding the list should there ever be a potential vacancy for us to fill.
This administration, according to the analysis, does lag the previous 3 administrations when it comes to the diversity of the nominees already put forward. Can you sort of address why that's the case?
I'd have to look at the specifics before I could comment on the study. Margaret?
Thank you. I'm thankful also for the First Amendment and for this exercise.
I think it's good for preparation for everybody for Thursday with your families so that you guys will have already thought through what you're thankful for, so you'll be the most prepared. Exactly. Yeah.
Yes. Can you tell us whether the President or the White House actively encouraged the Justice Department to move forward with the federal antitrust suit against AT&T Time Warner against the deal that's been announced today?
No, I'm not aware of any specific action taken by the White House.
Do you have a view on that? You're saying on the front end, would you have any statement about that now?
Not at this time.
Sarah. Me? Well, first,
Sorry, so
my gratitude. I'm grateful to have the opportunity to fill in for our chief, John Roberts, and I'm grateful to only have a month left. One in the oven, so it's my first. I've got a lot to learn. My question is back to the UCLA basketball players. President Trump over the weekend, he called them ungrateful. And I'm just curious because, the players have already apologized in their briefing last week. So what more would President Trump like to see from them? What would satisfy him?
Look, I think that the president, like I said, was happy to intervene. I think it was less about the players and the father of one of the Americans released seemed to have a problem with it. Frankly, it didn't seem like the father wanted the president to intervene, which I think would have been a sad thing if he hadn't, most likely.
And
Matthew?
does he believe that he really should have left the players in jail? Or?
No, I think if that's the case, he wouldn't have taken the action that he did and certainly acted in order to help get those individuals released and brought back to the country. Matthew?
So, following on that, if that's not how he feels, then why did he say that he should have left them in jail?
Look, the president was
supposed to take from
look,
that?
the president it was a rhetorical response to a criticism by the father. Again, I think the president was happy to see the release of these individuals and have them back in the United States. Take one last question. John Gizzi.